Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws, does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor.
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome aboard. It's Hump Day. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you, as usual, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Looks kind of overcast outside, but that's okay. Kind of winter. Man, we were lucky with that. How about that? I know some people don't like the warm weather of Christmas. I love it. I love it. I'm over the white Christmas business. I'm sure the kids love that. And I did when I was a kid. But yeah, the driving and all that goes with it. So lots to get to today. Looking forward to Dustin Dopirak joining us. Bob and Rick. Bob Kravitz. Rick Bozich. Lots to get to. Bowl games. Miro Lidro plans a visit. The SEC is goose eggs, baby. 0-4 in bowl games. And we got some of those to talk about. Carson Wentz. COVID protocol. And, of course, the great John Madden passes away, man. Unexpectedly. 85. He is being touted as someone who maybe impacted NFL football like no one else, more than anyone else. And it's probably true because he was a player before he was a coach, before he was a Hall of Fame broadcaster, and has a video game that will go down in forever and continue to go. I don't play video games, but I would guess that has to be, it's one of the top video games that there's ever been for the longevity. That thing is, I don't even know how long that thing's been going now, but it's been a minute. But we'll have to get some great calls from John Madden. I should have had you put that together, John Boy. He was the younger generation. If you did not get to hear him on TV, he was he was just kind of different and funny in a different way. He had his own kind of language. $7 billion in Madden football revenue. Brandon says $7 billion. Billions and billions. That number is almost hard to comprehend from one video game. I wonder how much of that he received. Good question. It doesn't take much. And to give you a great example, we've talked about it on different stories before, but way back when the NBA was acquiring the ABA and only 4 teams made it in, the Spirit of St. Louis was one of the teams that did not get to go, but their owners were so smart and ahead of their time. They negotiated in as a part of their settlement, and it was just St. Louis. I don't know why the other teams weren't involved in this, but they negotiated it into their package. I think it was like 1% of the NBA's TV revenue. And in 1975, the NBA didn't have any of hardly all, any of TV revenue. What do you think that TV revenue was like in 2000 and 2005? And yeah, they were still collecting checks, man. That smart move that they calculated back in the 70s led to millions and millions and millions of dollars before they were finally bought out. But John Madden, I grew up listening to him. He was, I think he was done coaching when I really started to be able to pay attention to football. But so I don't really remember him coaching other than seeing it on replays and whatnot. But man, it's he was just one of the most impactful people, and just seemed like a good guy, big guy. But gregarious. We had the what do you call that turkey thing at the he'd always put together?
Is turducken.
Turducken, there you go, with the 6 legs. He's come up with some goofy stuff. He was paired with longtime partner Pat Summerall, another former NFL player. But those two guys, man, they were a team like no other that I can remember in sports broadcasting. We're just together a long, long time. So that was not my wish. No game tonight, by the way. Yeah, I forgot about that. Indiana scheduled to play UNC Asheville tonight. That game canceled due to COVID. I didn't even want to bring up the word. I didn't want to bring it up yet. Because there's so much that's getting canceled. But Indiana has its game affected. Yep, all the old Miller Lite commercials John Madden was in. Won't play one of those. That will probably be a content conflict. But John, if you can pull anything up from him, let me know.
Yeah, most everything I've found is stuff that we can't air. So unfortunately, I can't do that.
It's all right. I went and saw CJ Gunn play last night as he made his return to action. And he had a toe injury, a broken toe, I believe is what it was. And he showed no ill effects, running just as hard as you can run. And let me tell you, that game was fun. It started out, looked like it wasn't going to be very fun. Lawrence North jumped out to a lead, and it looked like this is going to be over quick. CJ didn't even come in until 5 minutes were left in the first quarter. He didn't start, just wanted to get ease back in. Lawrence North had been 5-1 with him out. So they've got a decent team. You got Omar Cooper on that team and some great athletes. Man, they were playing hard. But so this was a game of big runs. Lawrence North goes up. Then all of a sudden, the second quarter, I'll be honest with you, I think Lawrence North got big-headed, and they kind of they got away from what they should have been doing, and were more concerned with trying to play mind games and just not paying attention to what they were doing, turning the ball over. And Tinley was working their little butts off. Next thing you know, here they make a dent in it. And then it was back and forth. Then the next thing you know, Tinley, I remember last night because I couldn't believe it. They outscored Lawrence North like 24-11 in the second quarter. And I'm like, wow. So it was a complete turnaround. Then the next thing you know, the third quarter, Tinley continues to roll. They're up big. Next thing I know, they're up 12, 14 points. This game's 15 points. I remember sending out a tweet that Lawrence North had just gotten within 75-60. And this is in the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden, Lawrence North starts making this unbelievable run where they're doing exactly what Tinley was doing before, working their butts off. Everything's happening. They're turning Tinley over left and right. Tinley was raining some threes down, making it really tough for him in the third quarter. I mean, gosh. But so Lawrence North made this run, and next thing you know, we got a ball game. But to the reason why, C.J. Gunn, who, like I said, didn't even come into the game until 5 minutes were left in the first quarter. I think he ended up, by my count, he had 9 or 11. I think he had 11 points in the first half in just that little bit of time. I didn't keep up with it in the third quarter. But in the fourth quarter, he went to work. He looked like a little Reggie Miller out there. 3 straight 3-point shots. He hit another 3-point shot. All in all, 18 fourth quarter points. 18 fourth quarter points. 34 points on the night. And his return from injury didn't even start. So, loved watching him shoot. He has grown as far as he's filled out a little bit, and we'll hear from him. I got to talk to him, talk to his dad as well, Chris. What a great family, by the way. Tremendous, tremendous family. That's the one thing I've seen from being able to talk to a lot of these athletes. When we are able to get to know some of the parents, some of them are obviously not around here, but great families. And that is of such uber importance. It truly is. But, man, that was fun. That game last night, I'm telling you, it was fun. Lawrence North did not get the result they want. They ended up losing that game. But it was absolutely fun watching Chris Gunn and Omar Cooper. Forgot I didn't even mention him. That dude, what an athlete. Can fly. He's a starter on that team. Dude can just get it, can get to the rim. I guarantee you will see him in the hyper playing some ball. Without question. Carson Wentz in COVID protocol. Where are the Colts going to turn? Mercy me. That's a situation, isn't it? That is a John, can you play quarterback?
Absolutely not.
I didn't think so. I just wanted to make sure. I know we got to take a break. Coming up next, Dustin Dopirak will join us. We'll talk about all this stuff in depth. What does Indiana do now basketball-wise? Just take off a little more practice. I'll be honest with you. I wish I'd have known this game was going to get canceled. I'd have gone on vacation. I'd have done something. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Southern Stone Restaurant, Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington, home of the Inside Indiana Basketball Show with Mike Woodson, each Monday night at 7:05. And other than that, it's just got great food all the time. Hey, we're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration Oh, that's the Purdue game.
What is?
All right, Caleb Banks, 34-17. How about that match?
CJ Gunn's already signed, hasn't he?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Well, you know what?
I think he has.
I keep calling him a signee.
I think all three of them signed because I remember now that I'm saying it out loud, I made a clip about him, Caleb Banks, and whoever their third guy is in the class.
Ja'Kai Newton.
No, Jalen Hood-Schifino.
Where's Ja'Kai Newton?
He's the following year.
Oh, okay. Jalen Hood-Schifino, the kid in Georgia.
Caleb Banks, and then CJ Gunn.
That's a pretty nice class, brother.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you consider the transfer portal and that kind of stuff.
See, Indiana is just recruiting. Mike Woodson is trying to build. See, can you do that? Yeah, you can do that, but that's not building a program.
Mm-hmm.
That's John Calipari all over again.
Yeah.
John Calipari, I hate getting into it because I don't think he can coach. I've said it over and over. Because all he's done, he's gone the oh man, one and done route.
Yeah.
Until that well ran dry, just coincidentally, the same time that the FBI investigation broke out. I don't know. I just keep mentioning that, and no one seems to grasp that the very season following the FBI investigation, both Kentucky and Duke Nike schools suddenly weren't that good.
Yeah.
It was real. I don't understand why no one I'm like going, do you really think this is a freaking coincidence?
15 seconds, by the way. And I've reached out to Dustin to remind him. I'm sure he'll be on here shortly, but I'll let you know.
The station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this Wednesday, Hump Day. Lots of high school ball going on right now. There's the Danny Bush Classic that happened at Bedford North Lawrence yesterday. Bloomington North was in that with J.Q. Roberts. Their first game, they handled Whiteland pretty easily, 60-45. He finished with 27-10. So that's another Indiana. That's not a signing. That's just someone that they're looking at. Coach Woodson was there to watch JQ. Coach, oh man, too many names flying through my head today. Was in attendance last night. Kenya Hunter was there watching CJ Gunn play. Small Tinley High School, man, that I'd never been there, and small gym. I'm used to the Southern Indiana gyms, Floyd Central, which is not that big, but then you go to New Albany, then you go to Jeffersonville, then you go to Seymour. We're talking 4, 5, 8,000 seat gyms. And I'm not cracking on Tinley, but Tinley, the bleachers may have gone 4 rows up, maybe 5, but that's it. And then you got no room on the ends. Stan, I kind of stood under the basket, but I was surprised at the size of that gym, but it made it for excitement because when it got loud and it got kind of spicy at the end. Looking forward to talking to Dustin Dopirak. But JQ, yeah, he had that game, and then they played again. he hit 3 threes in the first half of the second game yesterday. That's good to see. Man, these are the kind of guys, JQ Roberts, CJ Gunn, they're kind of similar. Both love to have both of those kids on the roster because you're looking at some more size now with CJ at guard. So we got CJ and JQ. We're going into the initial war. JQ out on wing. Shooters. Well, trust me, JQ can shoot, and as can CJ. He had some right leg issues last night. They actually ended up losing to Bedford 48-40 in the second game. I'm not sure if he ended up playing much I'm kind of picking up right now, but not the best showing from Roberts for this game. This is from Kyler Staley of thehoosier.com. He was North's leading scorer at the half, but was held to only 3 points in the second half with 10 points. Bedford North Lawrence's defense rally limited him this game. He did exit the game with a right leg injury, so hope nothing serious comes out of that. Overall, up and down day for Roberts was amazing in the first game, but pretty much a non-factor in the second. He did shoot the ball well from 3 in the second game. So there you go. They put a little defense on him, but he also got a little injury there. So, but sounds like a decent day for him. But there's always learning to do. It's like last night, CJ Gunn. There was a point where he was just trying to do too much. I think it took a minute for him to settle down. Even after he was in a while, he just had to kind of find his rhythm, and because they got a good team, man, Lawrence North, they don't have a ton of great basketball players. As far as you've got CJ who can shoot, and I'm sure a couple other guys, but man, can they just battle? They definitely did that. But hopefully he gets nothing with that. So there's that. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com. Complete stories on Miro Lidl, who is scheduled a visit to Indiana. I think he's got 3 visits scheduled. From Finland, I believe. Helsinki. He's from the Helsinki Basketball Academy. But he's coming to Baylor. These are all in January. Coming up in a couple of weeks. That 2.5 weeks, they start. So he'll be at Baylor January 15th and 16th. The 17th, I guess he's a travel day because he heads down to Villanova. So he goes from Dallas to Philadelphia. The 18th and 19th. And then he'll travel to Bloomington on the 20th and 21st. And like I said, I've said this 1,000 times. If I'm doing an interview, if I'm in an interview, if whatever, I always prefer being the last one in. I want to get the last word, leave the last impression, and I think that, well, Baylor just won a national championship, so that doesn't take much. You just run that cloth or run on the top of that ball, shines pretty nicely from 2021. So that won't be a problem. Villanova, another great program. These are 3 great programs. You got Jay Wright, who another program that has recently won a national championship. And then you've got a program who's won more national championships than both those teams combined, but hasn't won one in several presidents. That's going to be for someone who's out of the country. The good thing is about that is I know that Dane Fife went to see him. So that means if he speaks English, he got to meet Dane Fife, and that either sealed the deal or sent it the other way. I'm just kidding. Dane's an awesome guy, and he's like, I was talking to CJ or Chris Gunn last night, and they were going through, I was asking about as a matter of fact, we'll hear from him later. But I think he pointed out Dane Fife as being one of the guys, that he's a nut. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I say. So the relationships, they're different. The coaching, the relationships between players, parents, and the coaching staff, I can see a difference in the relationship in the staff and us. But I would never have expected that to be the same, because usually that's always great. You know, I bet it wasn't. Not the way it is now. It's really fresh. It's really real, a relaxing environment. It's, and I'm talking about the staff of Indiana has made that very relaxing. And I think that that's going to matter greatly for the parents and for the players. It's Mike Woodson has this very, very relaxed vibe. It's who he is. And that is permeating down to the staff. And I think that's going to be very effective. I truly do. It just comes across when I am able to talk to people that are affected by it. But yeah, I got an opportunity to talk to Coach Kenny Hunter last night for just a little bit. And he's leaving the game. But he was out there, check that out. Now, Monday night, had a chance to talk to Quinn Buckner. He came out to Coach Woody's show out at Southern Stone. Had not seen Mr. Buckner in a little bit. Still working to try to get him on the show. I'm going to have to work on Chris tomorrow to work on it now. Now that I've got the official bug in there to him, I'm going to put that on Chris to make that happen. But I'm surprised more people are not going out to Coach Woodson's coaches show. I think that next year, when that is moved to what is going to be a different location owned by the same people, but bigger, better, that things are going to be even a lot more fun. But there are always people at his show from the walk of basketball, the world of basketball. And you never know who it's going to be. Quinn Buckner just strolled in the other night. Mike Woodson strolled in on Tom Allen's coach's show one night. Just sat down and had some pictures with people and met some folks, but just sat down and enjoyed the show and enjoyed a great meal. So I'm telling you, I'm shocked that more people don't come out because you never know who is going to be there. And doesn't even include the extra guests they're going to be having the coaches on because of the COVID protocol. I think that instead of having the student athletes on now, they're going to stop doing that for the rest of this season. I believe they've already been doing that. I missed the only show that I couldn't go to was Christmas week. And of course it was Dane Fife. He was there. Daggone it. I wished I could have been there. But couldn't. And so let's get to some of your comments. I think I mentioned already Caleb Banks last night, 34 points, 17 rebounds. Those are and you've got CJ Gunn that I just talked about, 34 points, 18 in the fourth quarter. Those are the kind of players that Mike Woodson is bringing in. And like I said, I like to see the recruiting, not the portal. Not saying that they're never going to hit the portal here and there. Sometimes it's perfect. Sometimes you need this now. I need this position now. Am I over? But every time I hear, okay.
It's not, I mean, it's uploading as we speak. So don't call for it just yet. I should have. Now it's ready.
Well, but do you have a clip or the full thing here?
No, it's the first thing that you asked him.
Okay, let's hear whatever the first thing I asked him was.
Yeah, no, we're excited. He affectionately called his comeback the return. I don't know where that came from, but he coined that phrase. We're just blessed. We're excited that he's worked through the injury that he had. It was a broken big toe, and so he couldn't really do a lot of working out, a lot of cardio. So I was, Dad's a little concerned about his endurance during this first game, but he seems to be doing pretty well. Came out and hit a couple big shots. We're in a battle, though. It's tied. We're taking this interview at halftime. It's tied 34-34. So if you sense any intrepidation in my voices right now, because the victory comes first, the individual accolades and points and all that kind of good stuff comes second.
That's Chris Gunn, CJ's father. Yeah, we were at halftime of that game last night, and like I said, that was a game that started out. Lawrence North jumped all over them. They were up, and then they weren't. It was kind of wild to watch, but and it was a wild game, fun game, but great to. I'm thankful for him to spend a couple of minutes with me. Appreciate them. We'll hear from Omar Cooper later as well. We'll hear from CJ Gunn later as well in the program. Omar Cooper, of course, a commitment on the Indiana football team. So you can see again the kind of athletes that are coming in. Looking forward to that. He's one of those guys you don't want guarding you. He's just lightning quick and would just the guy that drove you nuts. That guy that just drove you nuts when you were playing. The SEC is 0-4 in bowl games, people. How do you like it? What was yesterday's scores? Let's see. Let's go, though. Yeah, let's go through that because let me tell you what Mississippi. I'm no longer a Mike Leach fan. I had I started with $200 betting this year. And so I got up to like 700, but then it's been back and it's been hanging in around 400. And so last time I'm like, all right, I bet a 3-team parlay yesterday, $100. That's money I won. So it's not money I'm losing. Air Force. Who did I took? I took Houston over Auburn. I took Air Force over Louisville. And I took Mississippi State. Mike Leach, surely. This is his first opportunity. He wants to bury Texas Tech. But guess what happens? 5 minutes before the game, they announce 15 players are out of the game that they knew about in advance, but did not announce. Their entire defensive line basically was gone. Where is that stupid game? The rushing statistics that they gave up yesterday was crazy. Come on, man. Bring me this score. I'm so mad now I can't even remember who I'm looking for. Mississippi State and who'd they play, John? You might as well just stay in here with me.
They played Texas Tech.
Oh, yeah, the Red Raiders. There's Houston, Auburn. Houston came through for me. They beat Auburn 17-13. So there's one of your 8 SECs. Louisville made it a game, but they lose to Air Force 31-28. And then Texas Tech 34-7. Well, I want to see the stats for this game. Come on. Man. Donovan Smith he only threw for 252 yards and a touchdown, ran for another one. Taj Brooks rushed for 107 yards and a touchdown. So Roderick Thompson ran for another 80 yards and a score. Everybody's running for 100 yards and a touchdown because they didn't have a defensive line. Mississippi State, of course, fell short. Mike Leach's first game against his former program, where he went 84-43 in 2000 and 2009. But like I said, their defensive front was wiped out. Texas Tech rushed for 260 yards. Do you know how many yards they gave up averaging coming into that game? 100 a game.
You talk about the SEC being 0-4. It's not looking any easier for them to get that first win. They're not favored.
Yeah, well, let me finish
Bowl.
complaining. Let me finish complaining about this because this cost me a $550 payout.
Wow.
And the thing is, these 15 players, they knew that they weren't playing. In the NFL, you can't do that. You have to announce who's playing and who's not playing, specifically so people don't get fleeced like I did yesterday. Man, I'm kind of steamed about it. I mean, it's not like I didn't bet that amount and lose it, but that payout I lost, it was right there. I would not have taken them, obviously, if I've known their entire defensive front and others were gone. As there were a lot of complaints on social media, and I was hoping that this would be one of those instances where the bet providers would say, yeah, you know what? That's a wrong deal. We're going to give you your money back. I'd have been fine with just my money back. But no, we got to take a break. We're back. When we come back, we're going to hear from CJ Gunn. We'll hear from Omar Cooper, and Dustin Dopirak is here to join us. Back with him right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Sports on television.
Good morning, Dustin Dopirak. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Jim Coyle. How are you doing?
Great, man. You sound great.
Do I?
Yeah.
Probably. I look like I just woke up, probably, because I did.
No, it's seriously. That sound is like.
The sound's coming in wonderful. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Good to hear.
How was your, I hate to ask that stuff before because then I forget to ask, but how was your Christmas?
Good. Kind of still out here at in-laws' house. So.
Where?
Up in South Bend, up at my in-laws.
Man, you cut out right when you said where you were.
South Bend.
Oh. Yeah, I was just complaining. I'm like, damn it. If this game, I wish they'd have canceled this game a week ago. I would have been on vacation somewhere. I would have taken the first vacation in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been just perfect. Not vacation. I would have still been working, but I would have gone someplace that I would have worked from that was not here.
Right. Well, no, I'm sure all the kids in Nashville probably got it over Christmas break and didn't have it then. So they probably couldn't have canceled it then, but they, if you would have known then that this was coming, then that would have been a good time for that.
I'm tempted to tackle a subject with you that there's no winners if we do, but COVID protocols,
right?
They've got to be changed. I mean,
and they're going to be. I think it's just there's an adjustment period on this that because it's just, the variant's different and it's breaking through and not doing anything when once it hits you. So it makes for an awkward thing. It just comes to it's a changing virus. It's a different virus. And so, they do have to make decisions based on that. But I think they're still figuring out what this even does. So far
it's like the vaccine. It's like, okay, it hits the vaccine. It's like, oh hell, whoa, guys, we gotta, what's going on here? And
the best way I heard it described is it's like, imagine you have one, consider how you were looking at vaccination. Imagine you have one less. Imagine you took It's like basically like it took one step back for you. Like if you have 3, you have to imagine you have 2. If you had 2, you have to imagine you have 1. And if you were like if you were infected before, you have to imagine that you weren't. It's taking sort of one thing seconds off of you. It's like takes like one shot off your immunity. Because it's just
Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Hey, welcome back. It's Wednesday, hump day. We're halfway there. Joined now by Dustin Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald-Times. How are you, sir?
Doing well, Jim. How about yourself?
Cannot complain. I hope you had a Merry Christmas.
You as well?
You're up in South Bend, you said?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a good place to be during Christmas because, you're much, much closer to the North Pole up there. I mean, it's only like an hour away, isn't it?
But just about that. I mean, Santa Claus just walks to your house. Basically, doesn't even need to slay a reindeer or anything like that. He just kind of comes by and knocks on your door.
Yeah, that's his daily walking.
Pretty good yesterday. I don't think Indy got it. Indy or Bloomington got any of that, and we got it pretty good up here. We got hit pretty hard. So it wasn't a white Christmas, but it was a white a couple of days after Christmas. So
Well,
if you're into that sort of thing, if you like snow, you get more of it up here for sure.
Nope. Cam, if you would have been with us at the opening of the show, I'm like, oh man, thank goodness, no white Christmas. I'm over that business. No snow. If I want snow, I'll drive to someplace. But I went up to Tinley High School last night to see CJ Gunn in his debut game. Man, he came out firing. He didn't start. He didn't come in until about 5 minutes left in the first quarter, but he ended that game with 34 points. 18 came in the fourth quarter when Lawrence North was trying to make a furious rally after that. That was a fun high school game to watch. It was up, down. But any worries that CJ Gunn can shoot, they should be put away. This dude, I watched him last night. I mean, sometimes he was trying to take too much onto his back, I think. But I saw him hit 3 in a row in the fourth quarter when they were trying to make this comeback. He was trying to do a Reggie Miller, and he did. I mean, they did not get the win, but 18 points in the fourth quarter, that's pretty healthy, especially when those are important points.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think Gunn knows. I mean, I saw him a little bit. I'm trying to think what the summer tournament was up at Carmel. We got to watch him a little bit, obviously, before the injury. And so, I mean, he is going to take on a lot with this group. A lot of guys graduated or moved on or whatever. Obviously, Donovan McCulley being one of them. So he does view this season as one where he has to take on a lot more, both from a scoring perspective and from a defensive perspective. So he's going to take a lot of shots. He's going to look at this as more his team and more his job to score the basketball. So you're going to see that ability from him more. You're going to see what happens when he tries to take over. Maybe he'll do it more than he should. But I think that's going to really show you, okay, like what is this guy going to do as a scorer where they've had really balanced scoring for most of the time he's been there. They've been able to spread the ball around. It's going to be more his team, more his game this season. And so, you're going to get to see just how good of a shooter he is, how good of a scorer he is. Unfortunately that he didn't get started till now because of the injury, but you're going to see him get going. And it's, I mean, it's important. Obviously, he's auditioning, certainly because, I mean, he's the guy that was already part of the class that Mike Woodson obviously had to decide to keep him. But he was recruited by Archie Miller. He signed, initially committed to Archie Miller. So Gunn's got to prove himself, to a certain extent now. And then again, when he gets on campus to Bloomington, is the guy that wasn't necessarily the one that Woodson went after. And so, and show how he fits. Obviously, they're, recruiting scoring guards. They're obviously bringing in, Caleb Banks and Hood Schifino. And those are higher rated guys. Banks is at least a bigger guy. He's not necessarily much higher rated. But he's going to have to prove himself and get himself on the floor. And I imagine he'll still be battling for time with Tamar Bates, unless Bates makes just takes a rocket ship through January, February, March, and ends up being a draft pick. But at this point,
don't say that. Indiana fans will have a heart attack, man.
It probably will. But if Tamar Bates does get on that rocket ship, you're at least going to enjoy the ride for the next 3 months. But yeah, I mean, he's in a position where he needs to play himself into playing time when he gets to Indiana. But part of that is going to be proving he can score the basketball now.
Miro Little has scheduled visits apparently to Baylor, to Villanova, and then to Indiana in January, coming up in a couple of weeks. 3 solid programs there, man. You've got a national champion, a 2-time recent national champion, and then a traditional school I call Indiana with 5 national championships. I mean, so that's going to be 3 great visits for him. I mean, you got Jay Wright. Of course, you've got what Drew has done down there at Baylor, and now you've got Mike Woodson at Indiana, who spent his time. So Miro Little is, for someone who's been off the radar so much, he's obviously a very, very coveted player.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I know they've been after him for a while. I think they've really been after him since this I guess coaching administration has been a fan of him since really the beginning. He's off the radar because he's in Finland. So it's just you've got to make that investment. I mean, you've got to be a program that basically can invest in going international. And not everybody can do that. But I know Indiana's been doing it. I know I think Dane Fife was there in like October, somewhere in that vicinity, to go visit him and go check him out. And that's not an easy thing. I mean, going to watch kids play, it sucks enough. I'll be honest with you. Sure.
You got to drive. Kenya Hunter was up watching CJ last night. You're driving, you're getting in late. We're talking about getting on a plane, to get on another plane, to fly out of the country, to probably get on yet another plane to get to Finland. And then God knows what you got to do to get to the gym.
Yeah, no, exactly. It is it's your whole weekend at least. And then you're coming back, jet lagged as all get out to try to coach, whatever situation you in. I think, it was right around, Big Ten Media Day. So it was like toward the end of October. Obviously they weren't playing games yet. But still, I mean, it is a hike, and it's an investment. You have to decide you really want somebody, if you're going to put that in. I mean, that's, not that, programs the level of Indiana are counting their pennies, to this extent. But I mean, that's at least a 4-figure investment, to get you out there between, the plane flight and the hotel and however many days you're there. And, you better see something too. You've got to get some real evaluation there, because it's not like they're coming in and playing in AAU tournaments. I mean, you got to see what he looks like, against real competition, and hope that you see enough to convince yourself that, hey, this guy's worth it. Now, most of the time, you don't go there unless you already know. You don't go there unless you've already seen enough video to say this guy's worth it. And so obviously they've seen enough from Miro Little to see this guy is worth it. This guy plays the position the way they want to play it. And obviously, as Mike Woodson's mentioned a lot of times, he's considers the point guard position very, very important. Asks a lot from those guys, and so obviously he sees in Miro Little what he wants to see, and obviously the assistants do as well, to want to go after him. And obviously they're not the only ones, because Baylor and Villanova do too. But it comes down to him, and you've got to be willing to invest. You've got to be willing to get over there on a plane, and go all that distance, and know that you're not going to catch him playing in some big old field house in Dallas or Las Vegas or whatever in July. I mean, you're going to have to make your decisions based on what you see from him playing overseas. And, but so you better be sure. And it seems like they and several other programs are.
Yeah. And I talk about the 3-man class that they have coming in: CJ Gunn and Jalen Schifino, and Caleb Banks. 3 solid recruits. Caleb Banks with 34 and 17 last night. But Woody is he's building this program through recruiting. This is not a Kentucky that is relying on the portal like they relied on the one and dones before that. He's actually recruiting these kids, and which I was a little surprised. I thought that they may hit the portal, especially since, getting here, you're like, oh, I got to get there, so I got to hit the ground running. But he didn't. He has taken completely what he had and is building on to that. And I think he obviously knows what he's doing. He's building his own foundation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like he didn't use the portal. He felt like he needed a point guard. He went and got a point guard. He felt like he needed a spot up shooter, and he went and got a spot up shooter. Obviously already had one other player that they brought in from the portal, and Parker Stewart, and that was big help. Obviously that was a nice little parting gift basically for Archie Miller to Mike Woodson to give him sort of that leg up. Obviously Parker wasn't there yet, ready to play, last year, having just lost his dad. And so that obviously helped. I mean, you got all those pieces, and Michael Durr's a nice piece too, obviously, to be a backup 5. So he went and used the portal as it's supposed to be. And I think this is, he's going to use the portal how I think everybody's going to use the portal. And it's the same way as one and done. I think, we get so up in arms, I don't know if up in arms is a word. But we lock onto the shiny new thing as media when someone goes down that path, and nobody, even since the one and done thing, really it has only been Kentucky and basically Duke that have been able to think that they could build a program around one and dones. They're the only ones that really have the capability of doing it. And now the portal, what you're always going to have is, like high school recruiting is always going to be just pure bubble, what makes your program go. You're going to be able to do more in the portal now, and obviously Kentucky's doing a little bit more than some others. But you're going to have to make things happen in the portal, and they're going to. I think really at this point it's they need a big. Presumably you're going to lose Trace Jackson Davis. Basically the way he's playing, I have a hard time he's seeing him stick around for his senior year. There's a chance, I guess, if he really, really wants to do it. And if the NBA still feels like that, we haven't seen enough from you yet. We haven't seen a stretched out enough game for you at your size, but the likelihood is they're still going to need somebody that they're going to need to anchor down there. And they might have to go to the portal. Obviously they wanted Noah Clowney. If they got Noah Clowney, they'd be happy. But my point is everybody is going to build through high school freshmen, and then get portal players to fill in the spots that they don't have. And Mike Woodson's doing that too.
We were talking about the portal. I think these are probably football numbers, but 911 FBS scholarship athletes have entered just since August 1st. 32 of them withdrew, 243 found new homes. So 27% of the players have announced new schools. 636 FBS scholarship players still remain in the portal. That's an issue for high school students.
Yeah, it is.
That's where it is trickling. That's where people don't understand. That is where these coaches, they're not going to take a kid out of high school if they can get a second year guy that's got 2 years left. He's already been through the bulk up year. He's already been through the learning year. Oh yes, he will take him right now because it's less expensive. They don't have to train him. He's ready to go. He can play that. And so now where does that high school kid go? That's a question I don't have the answer to.
Yeah, no,
Smaller schools.
It's a huge mess because it's not just that there's a portal. The issue is still this COVID year, and it's the fact that they're apparently going back to an 85 scholarship limit, where they weren't counting the extra guys, the COVID guys, against your limit. You were allowed to go over to help ththose guys out, and now you can't. Now you're at 85. This thing is going to just clog the system, and it's a shame because it made sense. It made sense as a fix for the COVID year that no one really got to get the most out of that year. Obviously the SEC, the ACC, just played on, and they didn't really lose much. Big Ten played half a year. Didn't play in non-conference games, didn't start until the mid-end of October. And there were programs in Division I that played 4 or 5 games. And so it's like you don't those kids that played that year didn't deserve to have that taken away from them. They deserve to be gifted another year for playing through it, for sticking it out, or even if they didn't, even if they just opted out, they just didn't deserve to have that year counted against them. But now, I mean, it just clogs the system going forward, and especially basketball, it's one thing. Football, it's a whole different level, just because the numbers you're talking about is absolutely causing issues for kids being recruited. There's certainly kids that would be Division I or FBS programs that aren't, because there's just not enough spaces there. And again, obviously the portal makes a difference. Obviously, like you said, they have to invest less time or whatever. But I mean, if you're a high school coach or a college coach, you still want 4-year guys. You want guys that you can build in your program and have them play the way that you want to play. I mean, so you're going to balance that too. But the fact that there is all this movement, there are all these guys available, and there's just that many people that are in college football that still have eligibility left, and that's ultimately leading for high school kids to get fewer opportunities, and kids again that would ordinarily get scholarships there are having to either A, play at lower levels, or B, go to junior college or something. And it is really shaking up the process. And it's tough. I mean, it's just one of those things that, again, nobody could plan for this. And people are trying the best they can to tweak the system in some way to try to make it fair, based on what's happened, to say, okay, you didn't deserve to lose a year because of COVID, so you're going to get another year, and doing something for these kids to make it so that they don't get screwed here. But somebody is going to, somewhere down the line, it's getting somebody, and it's just shaking up the entire process. And it's a shame that it's like that. But, I also look at it and say, people are trying to do things, but they probably should not have, brought the limit back. It's basically like until they get through all these years, all these COVID years for these kids, until that group ages out, you probably have to mess with the limits and give people an extra 5 or 10 scholarships, just so they can, give these kids what they were basically promised.
And not only has COVID has caused so many issues. Mm-hmm. Here's another thing that I kind of don't think is right. Records. I saw where Sean Clifford of Penn State is coming back for his 6th year and looking to break the Penn State passing record. There is no way in hell I think you should be given a record if you've played 5 seasons. It has to stop. There has to be some kind of asterisk. Especially, I feel sorry for guys who have set great records in 4 seasons. And then now you're going to have a guy come along that plays 6 damn years and beat you. That's not cool.
No, I mean, it's not. In essence, it is. And I mean, again, we're always, this is one of those things where when you look back at record books and you look back at everything, like, I was one of those nerds in when I was a kid who just picked up an almanac or whatever, went through it and to see who led what year and who, won what national championship and whatever. And what it does though, is sometimes it gives you, you learn about American history, or you learn about world history sometimes by looking at that. And you'll look at this stage in this era and see that there was a global pandemic and shook up everything. It's like, if you look back at like who was, who were the top 20 teams in 1945 or 1944, and you see like random Air Force bases or have top 10 college football teams that year. Well, why is that? Well, there was a war. And so you see stuff like that, and that's how it will be explained. You'll look back and you'll see that there was no NCAA tournament in 2020, and there was a 60-game baseball season and all of that. I mean, you'll see all of the shakeup, and that'll be a part of it. It's like, okay, well, why are all these records, these college records, suddenly being broken, with numbers that are way past, what they used to be? Why is this suddenly there? And the answer will be because some of these guys got to play 6 years, and, you'll explain, okay, this is what was done the last time that they had a global pandemic. And hopefully, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, kids that read these will not know what the pandemic was. And that's how they'll learn about it, hopefully, which means we won't still be in it. But yeah, no, I mean, that'll always be there. And it's like, I mean, and shoot, as far as records are concerned, I mean, as even though it's only really in one sport, we crossed the Rubicon of these feeling holy. Once we got through steroids in baseball, and where those numbers that you always remember, those I think were the most sort of hallowed numbers that people could sort of quote off the top of their head. And now you have this forever thought of, does Barry Bonds' home run record really count, or is that and whether there is an asterisk on it, or Mark McGwire's home run record, or again, each of Barry Bonds' home run records. Do any of those count? Do they make the same things? When you have really, it depending on how you view it, you could have 3 or 4 home run records in your mind. And so, whether it's single season or career. So you're always going to look at it as that way. It's like, okay, well, I'm trying to think of who is Kerry Collins has Penn State's passing record. Is it, I should know this. I went there. But whoever has the passing record right now, probably first off, the fact that we don't know it off the top of our heads tells you it's not that massive of a deal to start with.
But it's taken a guy 6 years to get it.
It's taken a guy 6 years to get it, and that'll be noted. That'll certainly be
Trace,
noted. Be like, hey, well, he got an extra year that other guys don't get. And
I'll tell you right now,
already we started counting bowl games to records. Before. I mean, it used to be okay. Like you had to get, as far as 2,000-yard rushers, like that used to be a big thing. And that used to guarantee you a Heisman Trophy. And so, but it's like, we don't think of it that way as anymore. If you get to 2,000 in your bowl game, it still counts. If you get to 2,000 with your championship game, it still counts. It's not even. Not everybody is playing 11 and that's all. Because you might play a championship game, you might play a playoff game on top, a bowl game, and then a national championship game. I mean, there are 14 games on the board now that you could play, and so, well, no, I mean, you could play 15 right now. I mean, if you play your 12, play your conference championship game, play your 2 playoff games, that's 15 games. Used to be 11, so that's 4 past. I mean, that's a quarter of a season. Like if you play for Alabama this year and you're trying to break a single season passing record, Bryce Young might be there. I'm not sure, who's there as far as, because you obviously had Tua done that, Hurts done that. I mean, you are 4 games past what the record used to be. So, when you have changes, when you have things to shake things up, the record books get messed with, and that's how you could explain it. You could say, okay, well, this guy didn't play as many games. I mean.
Well, I can't believe that you did not. Who did you say? Kerry Collins?
It used to be Kerry Collins. Who is it now? Zach Mills.
When did
had it for
you must have went to Penn State in like the 90s,
2000 to 2004. It was a bad time. Not a lot of good things happened.
Well, all the reason I say that is because Kerry Collins is 9th.
Kerry Collins is 9th.
He's 9th. He's that far down the list. That's why I was like, dang God.
Jeez. Well, for a minute, I mean, he's the guy.
There are people ahead of him that I've never heard of. All right. I'm not a PSU fan, but Chuck Fusina, of course, he's from the 70s. Daryl Clark, who was in the late 2000s.
That's right.
Tony
Trace
Sacca.
McSorley. How could I forget Trace McSorley?
Oh, yeah. He's way up here. Tony Sacca,
Mm-hmm.
Matt McGloin,
Yep.
Zach Mills. I don't really remember him.
He was there when I was there. He was there.
Then you've got Sean Clifford, of course, who is he's got 76. So he's only 2,200 yards, 2,300 yards behind. And that's an average year for him. Christian Hackenberg, of course, in front of him. What with only 3 seasons? There you go, right there. My whole point. Only 3 seasons, and Sean Clifford already has 4 in the books.
Right.
So actually, it won't be 6 that he puts in there. It will be 5
for Christian Hackenberg. Yeah. No, sure. I mean, but again, everything's different. Nothing is on an even plane. I mean, like you look at it. I mean, I'm looking back at that list, so that was off the top of my head. I missed really badly. Kerry Collins was the single season passing yards leader when I went to school, and now there are 6 guys who have passed him. So what's the difference? I mean, they probably have massively more attempts, massively. So okay, what's even? What's fair? I don't know.
Right.
They throw the ball more. It's a different game. It is what it is. I mean, nothing's going to stay the same. I mean, there's not a lot of, especially in football with the game having changed the way it is, with people throwing the ball more. I mean, it's a different game anyway. Tempo, the way it is now, it's just a different game. So, that stuff, those records are not hallowed. They change all the time, and someone getting an extra year seems more fair, or less fair. than what else is happening. But again, those records aren't standing for very long anyway. And again, I should have known as a graduate. McSorley was a fun guy to watch. McSorley was a really fun guy to watch.
Our friend Mr. Kincaid would not be proud of you.
No, not at all. So
Greg Kincaid, former SID here at Indiana, but he is from Penn State, and he is the football SID at Penn State now.
Moved up and over.
So heck yeah, he's got a couple of kids even by now. Man, he got busy as soon as he left here.
He did. I missed the Greg Kincaid era entirely.
Oh, you did?
I did. Yep, totally missed him. Wasn't around.
My God, I can't believe he's been gone that long.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow. Well, hopefully we're going to make it through the bowl season. COVID is running rampant. I didn't really get a chance because I didn't bring it up. I forgot. But COVID protocols got to be changed because we're seeing all these cancellations, and I don't think that all of these cancellations are warranted.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, everybody's adjusting on the fly, and that's unfortunately what it is. It's a global pandemic with changing variants of viruses. It's just everything is new, and it's just so I think that's people are getting harsh on scientists and whatnot, and the thing about it is because it is constant change, and science is built to experiment, re-experiment, and be able to say something with 100% certainty. And they can't say a lot with certainty at this point. They're still learning about the Omicron variant and how it operates different, but also how the virus operates different if you are vaccinated and if you also have a booster shot. And so all of those are things that we're still learning. I did contact tracing between the time I was at the Athletic and now. Basically I was full-time until I started working at Daily Hoosier, and then obviously have moved on since I'm now at the Herald Times and Indy Star, that I'm full time. But I did a lot of contact tracing. So we had to learn a lot about this on the fly, obviously not as scientists, but people that were calling people who had it to explain to them, okay, this is what you need to do now that you've tested positive. This is what, your kind of responsibility is as a citizen. It wasn't anything we could do to them legally, but we were saying, hey, look, your job is to, you're to quarantine for, and we were way over the top. And we said, be 14 days just to be really safe. Basically your isolation period is technically 10, but just to be really safe, go for 14 days. And that was obviously got started on that before there were vaccines, and certainly before there were booster shots, and certainly before we had this alteration and really in variants. But it's, obviously the CDC has changed its guidelines, but the tough part is what you're really trying to find out is, are you still infectious? And the idea was that you might still be infectious past the point of when you have symptoms. So basically, if the CDC is determined, but that's the determination the CDC has to make, and it's got to try to figure that out really quickly on not full data. Is basically, if you have this Omicron variant, we don't really know how long it stays in your body yet. We're still dealing with only so many people have had it, and you can only get to so many people and see how it mutates and see how it works in your body and see how it moves through. So everybody's still learning, and you might find in a month that it was dumb to cancel these bowl games, that it was stupid. But I don't know if you have enough data to be able to say that yet, to say that, okay, this is not something that you're risking running through your whole team and eventually getting to people that are either immunocompromised or in some way, shape, or form vulnerable. Obviously, we're talking about college kids that are athletes, so mostly, they're not going to have a major negative effect, more likely than not. But you could get to somebody who does, and so it's a question of, okay, how infectious are you, and who are you throwing this around to, and can you create a situation where even if you're not that vulnerable, you can play through it, and the people around you that you only surround yourself with people who are also vaxxed, boosted, and generally in good physical health, so that this isn't something that's going to be a major problem for you. But we're just figuring that out, and that's kind of how it's been since the beginning. You just have to realize. Think about people that go to medical school they're mostly learning things that have been ironclad fact for years and years and years and years and centuries even. And in this case, we're talking about a science that is literally changing day to day, week to week. And so we're going to get stuff wrong, and that's got to be okay. You got to be able to forgive that, just as a populace, that, there are things that we're going to cancel that we probably will look back, weeks later and say we shouldn't cancel. But it is what it is. And so, hopefully we're learning stuff. It seems like leagues are adjusting and saying, okay, maybe we don't need to isolate for 10 days anymore. Maybe if you're through 5 and you don't have any symptoms, you're good to go. It is something that we're going to learn on the fly, and there are going to be, casualties of that and unfairness to that. And it's something that, we got hit with as a country and as a world. And, it's not all going to be fair. I've said for anytime I've really talked about the pandemic, it's like, what happened? Basically, the question is what happened. When the question is what happens if, the answer is almost always something unfair.
And it usually is. Man, what's up coming up next for you?
Well, we got no basketball game tonight, so
I know. So you got to fill in the blank, baby.
What's that?
Little song and dance act.
Little song and dance act.
Yeah,
we got like 3 more days, man. We got New Year's. Don't have to, don't have to be back for any games. So we'll do some writing coming up on this, and see where the Big Ten season goes. It gets real starting on Sunday. Get to see them actually, play some real Big Ten games, and you really get to find out what this Indiana basketball team's all about.
Absolutely. Hopefully. But brother, I appreciate it so much. Thank you for taking time out to be with us. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah. As we wish to Bob Kravitz. He coined that phrase.
Important. Tell. Yeah, I think we're well past Hanukkah, but tell Bob I said happy Hanukkah as well.
I will absolutely do that here in just a little bit, as a matter of fact.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Will do. But
right.
Dustin Dopirak joining us from the Bloomington Herald. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. We've got more coming up here on always Indiana Sports Beat Radio, back with more right after this, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. If you need a deal, they've got them. $0 down, 0% financing at Andy Moore Honda. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
If you're in the market.
All right, we'll have a really, really quick 2 or 3 minute segment here before you go to your next break.
A 2 or 3 minute?
Or did you hear how about this? Just do it until you see either Bob or Rick pop up in the green room.
I didn't realize we were that long.
Yeah, that's why I was like, you got to get out. So just do a segment.
Well,
you could bring up the CJ. You could do the CJ Gunn clip that I have.
It wasn't my fault because how many words did I say?
No, and I knew. That's why I was like, man, don't ask him another question, because that's one question is like 3.5, 4 minutes.
That's okay though. That's good.
It is okay.
It's quality.
When you see Bob or Rick pop up in the green room, that's when you take your next break. And I'll text you when I see them in case you don't see them. Stop messing with that. I just put Remax up there.
Well, I'm trying to find. Yeah,
I'm over the weekend. I'm going to update all your overlays.
I thought
pretty for you. It's going to be.
I appreciate it. I was just saying, I thought you could have just copied there, and I've tried that, and I can't do that.
I know.
Copy from here and just put it here. It doesn't work that way.
We'll be ready for you next week.
And if there's anything you want to get rid of, especially down in the bottom.
Yeah, there's a lot. I should probably clean out some of this. There's a lot of stuff in here. I mean, it's not too much. I try to keep the things I want to keep. But I don't know. Whew. Hell, we may have Bob or Rick may join before we come back from break, but we'll see. And if that's the case, you just got to remember to take a break halfway in between.
Or
what?
As soon as one of them comes in, a lot of times you use that as a tease. Bring them in.
Okay, you can then break when the other one shows up. You could do that. We're under a minute now, so we might be good. I'm hoping we get into this segment before they show up. They're not always super early, but sometimes they are.
Prompt. Oh, well, I can tell you right now, Bob Kravitz has already told me he plans on being a tick late because he had a dentist appointment. I said, don't slobber all over yourself. He says, I do that all the time anyway.
All right, here we go.
Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you. It is Wednesday, hump day. We're halfway there. It's game night, but there's just no game, Rick. Just got a quick break here. I went long in the last segment, so I just pulled you in before we break and go out joint grab Bob. But the game gets canceled. No shocker there. I just wished I would have known. I could have gone on vacation, Rick. This is like this one thing right in the middle that you had to stay here for. And other than that, I'm like, oh my God, I could have had like 8 days of not having to be someplace for once. And didn't work out that way.
My concern is it's going to be this way for the rest of the season. We're going to be going week to week, game to game on whether games are going to be played. And these non-conference games are one thing, but once you start getting into conference play, then you're going to get into all kinds of inequalities about balance between how many home games you get and how many road games you get. And some teams are going to play 19 conference games and some's only going to play 15. And if you reschedule it, are you going to have to be forced to play on 1 day rest and make a road trip? And it's going to be a factor in determining, the final standings in the Big Ten.
Bowl games happening Louisville yesterday. I'm sure you were covering that. Air Force, the tough loss. Louisville made it a game at the end. It was Air Force had that 28-14 lead for it seemed like forever, and then all of a sudden, boom! Malik Cunningham kind of got things going. Louisville's dual threat quarterback who's getting better and better, who announced that he's coming back, so that's good for them. But I see that according to your colleague, Mr. Crawford, that the clock could be ticking for Chris Satterfield.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's in that situation sort of like Archie Miller was in after you've been there 3 years and people aren't seeing the progress that they expect to see. And what you have to remember when you view the Louisville football team is this is a program in the previous decade had a tremendous amount of success. Under Charlie Strong, they had a year, I think, when they went 11-1 or 12-1 and won a Sugar Bowl. And then they had Lamar Jackson, and he won a Heisman Trophy. And I think they went 9-3. And they're used to, anything less than 9 wins, they get mad. And now they've had back-to-back losing seasons for the first time probably since Steve Cragthorpe was the coach. And there's a lot of unhappiness in the program. And there's a lot of unhappiness because they lost 4 games by a touchdown or less. And, I think when your program is ascending, people look at it as you're getting better. But when your program is descending, they look at it as a failure that you're not good enough to close out games.
And if something does happen to him, the name Jeff Brom will undoubtedly be bouncing all over the walls. We got to take a quick break. Bob Kravitz will join us when we're back. So hang in there. We'll be right back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration. Hello, Roberts.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Great. How's the gums?
Everything's just a checkup. Hey, what am I doing wrong? I've got my speakers plugged into my phone, but I can't hear myself talk. Like I can't, you know what I'm saying? Is there something
you're
I
not
should
hearing
be doing?
yourself in your headphones?
Right.
Are you hearing us? Well, yeah, you're obviously hearing us. So
what's that?
No, nothing.
Down at the bottom.
At the bottom.
Down at the bottom.
Yeah.
There's a camera mic.
Yeah.
Feature.
Yeah.
Go into the audio and hit that.
Okay.
And there's a speaker. section. I've got
Default.
a mic and a speaker.
It says default MacBook Air microphone. I don't want that. I want an external headphone.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Okay, so how do I external headphones? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, that doesn't work.
Sometimes it sounds silly, but sometimes if I plug my headphones in after I've already turned on my phone or computer, it doesn't read it. So
all right,
reset. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay, let me pull it out and then put it back in again and see what happens.
Okay,
that's what you said.
You're like a 12-year-old. I swear to God.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Let me hit test. 1, 2, 3. No.
Hello, can you hear it? You cannot hear us in those headphones?
No, this is really weird. It's coming out the mic, the
speaker,
MacBook
computer.
Air.
Yeah, it's not. Make sure your headphones are plugged all the way in, and you have that little audio thing hit on
echo cancellation. Let's try that. No, that didn't work.
1 minute.
No.
I would try every headphones until you get it to work. Sometimes
this is the second set of headphones I've tried.
No. I meant every option that it gives you in the box.
Yeah. MacBook built-in speaker. God dang it. MacBook speaker default. Okay, let me try that. 1, 2, 3. No, I'll just go with it the way it is.
At least you can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
All right,
it sounds weird when I'm talking. That's all.
Sorry, Bob.
Oh, no problem. It's a user error.
It's an APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Or how about a brand new 2021 Honda Passport? Also 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Thursday. Jim Coyle with you as always. And the special treat, Bob Kravitz and Rick Bozich. How are you, gentlemen?
Fantastic. How are you, Jim? Rick?
I cannot
Doing
complain.
good. Doing good. Good to see Bob and Jim.
Robert, what is new for you? It's happy Hanukkahs again, like the phrase you and Hanukkahs. That's right.
Yeah.
Dustin Dopirak said hello, by the way. He was just on a little bit.
Good man. Good
he
man.
said, be sure to say hello to Bob for us.
Yeah. I'm not writing a lot this week. I'm working on a few things. We have a NBA 75 Best Players series. So I'm headed to French Lick next week to do something on Larry Bird, who's our number 7 player of all.
Now, what are you talking down there? Who are you talking, since he doesn't live there now or whatever? Are you talking to
I'm actually, there's a guy there who's with the West Baden Museum who's going to do me kind of do a self-guided, or he's going to do a guided tour of Larry Bird, memorabilia and where he went to school, where he grew up. I've already talked to Bill Hodges, his coach at ISU, and I'm talking with Jim Jones on Friday, who is his high school basketball coach. And so that's for something in February. At least I hope it's February. I hope I haven't missed deadline. And my Mariotti piece that I talked about, that's finally going to go in mid-January. And I got a lot of college basketball next week with IU and Purdue both being home.
I got a lot of problems with you people.
We hope.
We hope. Exactly.
Yeah, Indiana's game tonight canceled. We were talking a little earlier in the break with Rick. The non-con games getting canceled, that's one thing. But once you get into conference play, it's going to be a whole different animal. And yesterday, the Big Ten finally, of course, last to come out. Let's see what everybody else does. And they did pretty much what everybody else did. I don't know if there's any significant differences as far as what the thing that scares me. I forget where that line is, but some games will they'll make their own decision on whether or not it's rescheduled or this. And I'm like, wait, how do you? So they've already set it up to where we're going to kind of do it as we go along, kind of a thing. It seems like that's always scary.
Yeah, that's all you can do though. Because that's why they call it a variant. I mean, this thing keeps evolving and changing, and I give the NFL credit. I mean, the Colts, my God, did they get a big break this week? I mean, first, I know this sounds terrible, but if Carson Wentz was going to get COVID, you really needed it to happen like sometime in the next week or two, because you just didn't want that to happen during the playoffs. But now it looks like he may not even have to miss a game, because they're talking about 5 games or 5 days instead of.
But isn't
10.
that for vaccinated people?
No, that's for unvaccinated players. It used to be 10 days. Now with the CDC changes, they're saying 5 days. So if Carson was tested positive on Tuesday, he could play on Sunday.
So how many days for a vaccinated player then?
All they need is 2 negative tests to get out and of that list. So that could be a day or 2.
Yeah, because the Colts, speaking of the Colts, we'll have Matt Taylor on tomorrow, but 2 incredible back-to-back wins to just propel them from nowhere. Well, they were on a charge, but they're 0-3. They started the season 0-3, and now they have a 97% chance of making the playoffs, playing really well. How does this hurt them if they don't have Wentz this week? What if they don't have him? What the hell are they going to do?
Well, first of all, I think they're going to have him based on what we've learned. We'll know more from Frank Reich today at 11:15. I'll listen in that press conference, but I think that Carson will be able to play. I think that Darius Leonard, originally he was set to miss 2 games, but because of the change in protocols from 10 days to 5 days, he will be able to go this coming week. Same with Quentin Nelson, and some other guys will be coming off the list. But no, I'll tell you the truth. I'm usually dead wrong about these things, but I totally saw the season unfolding as it has. I really felt like they would get off to a really tough start with Carson missing so much time in training camp, the offensive line being beat up, and a brutal schedule to start. I mean, they faced 4 teams that had won 10 games or more last year. And then they found their sea legs, and they've been terrific ever since. And it's a great testament to Frank Reich and that coaching staff. I think they've done a marvelous job. Look, if Wentz can't go, I think it's Ellinger, or Ellinger, I should say. But that doesn't make me feel real good.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least it's against the Raiders and not the Patriots or.
Right, but the Raiders have a ton to play for now. I mean, the Raiders are still one of those 800 teams that are right around 500, and if they win, they're in really good shape for the playoffs. So I think we're going to see a really inspired Raiders team. I think this is going to be with or without Carson Wentz, I think this is going to be a really tough game. If they play the way they've been playing, lights out. But I think this is going to be a really tight game. I don't know what the spread is, but it shouldn't be that much.
The Raiders. What a perfect segue. Rick, yesterday we lost John Madden unexpectedly. I grew up with him, listening to him. The Sundays, Pat Summerall and John Madden in the winter and January. There was nothing else much to do. And listening to those 2 voices, that was a long time of coming into my ear, man, and a lot of other people as well. But that was just, if you watch football, you grew up with John Madden.
Yeah, I think John Madden is responsible as anybody you can name, player, coach, owner, whatever, for the NFL's incredible rise in popularity and to become the sports behemoth it is right now. Not just from his work on television because he was able to break down strategy in a way that I think the average person could understand it and laugh at it and have fun with him. But also obviously because of his association with the Madden video game.
Right.
And that became uber popular. And he did it on all 4 networks. He did it with all different, didn't matter whose play-by-play guy was, whether it was Summerall or Al Michaels or whoever. His legacy exceeds anybody that I can think of.
Yeah, I've gotten a chance to do some pretty cool stuff in my career. When I was 24 or 25, I took a train ride with John Madden from New York's Times Square, or not Times Square, we're at Penn Station, into Detroit for a Christmas,
Holy cow,
a Thanksgiving game in Detroit. So I just hung out with John Madden for hours and hours and hours, and just a great, sweet human being. I learned so much about football and just, being a dude from that guy.
He was just so honest, and I think every day he was an everyday guy. You said he could break it down for the everyday. He was an everyday guy. He just seemed like that, and who just got propelled because he was on TV. But he wasn't it was not for one of the big time franchises. It was Oakland. It was that gritty, tough, nasty group of fans, and Al Davis. What a pair, Al Davis and John Madden.
Well, Al Davis was a tough guy to work for, as we found out about 100 times since then, and he was able to do it somehow. And secondly, you got to tip your cap to Madden because he's one of the few guys who decided, I think it was age 42, that there's more to life than this. I read something yesterday. It was one of the obituaries about how when you're involved in sports as a coach or a player, you fly into a team, you go to the hotel, you go to the stadium, you go to the airport, you go home, you don't really see the city. And there had to be more to life than that. And he walked away from it and he never went back, like a lot of coaches do.
Right. Yeah, he gave up. Yeah, he gave up a lot of money, and he could have coached as long as he wanted.
Well, he did the right thing. Lots going on in basketball. Miro Lito has set up his visits, Rick, the Finnish player that will be visiting Baylor, Villanova, and Indiana. Ooh. So he is obviously a prime target.
Yeah, that's the one they've sent Dane Fife over there to see, I guess, one time.
Yes.
That's pretty tough competition. Villanova has a great track record for developing players, putting them in the NBA, and Baylor hasn't lost since 1979. It looks like they're repeat #1 team, and hat tip to Mike Woodson and Dane Fife for getting in there swinging. Those are kind of guys. You're probably going to get 25% of them, but you got to get in the ring and try if you're going to elevate the talent level on your team. And the one thing I've noticed about Mike Woodson, just in the time he's been there, is he is definitely an advocate that guards are what matter. And he's got 2 commitments for guards for next year, and then 2 more for the following year. And he's going for another one, guards and wings. So he wants guys who can dominate the game with the basketball in his hand, which is what he should want, because if you look at the weakness of this Indiana team right now, it's guards.
Right. And that's what wins the tournament.
And I was up in at Tinley High School last night watching CJ Gunn.
How'd he look?
And he did not start the game, came in with about 5 minutes left in the quarter, and ended up, I think, with 11 points in the first quarter in that short span. And for the game, he had 34, 18 of which came in the fourth quarter, which he tried to do his best. Reggie Miller, he hit three straight threes. He hit a fourth three, but he had 18 points in the fourth quarter when they were trying to make a furious comeback.
Is Tinley any good?
They're a 1A school, and the game started out where it was going to be a runaway, and Lawrence North just got big-headed, got away from what they were doing, and Tinley started turning them over and just hustling their butts off. And the next thing you know, that stupid game was tied. And then in the third quarter, they were down. Lawrence North was down. They were down like 14 points, but got it back very, very close largely because the team was all of them working their tails off. You got Omar Cooper on there as well, who's a hell of an athlete. But CJ Gunn was just, he was, I don't want to say Reggie Miller looking esque, but he was taking the shot. He's not afraid to shoot, not afraid to try to get his shot off. And he's got enough height, enough range where he can do that. He's got enough length. And when he's on a roll, he can tell. And man, like I said, hit those 3 in a row in the fourth quarter. That's pretty big for a high school kid to be able to do that when your team is needing that. It was definitely different than what I saw him play in I think it was the junior senior all-star game. Maybe I saw him where he did not have a good shooting night at all. He was like 2 of 11 or whatever, looked kind of apprehensive. And last night was his first game back off of injury.
Right.
It had been he did not look like it at all. He was ready to play. And so, yeah, he looks a lot better. He can definitely shoot the ball. No question. And get to the rim for that matter. He's definitely, I can see it's starting to see, like you just said, a pattern of Mike Woodson, of the style athlete that he wants, that he covets, likes to get, like a Miller Kopp, but more athletic. Well,
you want guys that the defense, has to fear because they can beat their man off the dribble and force you to switch and rotate and cause problems and create for themselves and create for others. And Johnson can do that this year when he's on and his head's locked in the game. But Stewart's a guy that somebody has to help.
He's the only one
open.
Yep.
Kopp mostly people have to do that. Finney I think he was better the last game against Northern Kentucky, but he doesn't seem to have that extra gear or extra drive to sort of be aggressive. And the other guys haven't proven it. So I think Woodson says, he needs guards who are going to be somebody that the other team fears.
Yeah, without question. And they're bringing those in. Caleb Banks, another player that's coming in. He had 34 and 17 last night. So looking forward to see how it goes in the next couple of years. Mike Woodson is definitely trying to build his program. It seems from a base, not through the portal. You had to use the portal a little bit when he first got here with Miller Kopp and those guys, but I think he wants to build his team through recruiting.
Yeah, I agree. He may have to get a big man out of the portal for next year after Trace Jackson Davis and if Race Thompson also goes, but they'll need another big man. But I agree. I think he's trying to build his own guys who will be around for a few years.
I talked about this earlier with all the COVID, the people that get extra years, records that get broken by people who have extra years. It got to be an asterisk, man. You got to put a COVID asterisk there.
Well, is this like Roger Maris in his 61 home run or whatever it was, 61 home runs?
It's kind of a little different, but
because he did it in 100.
But he didn't get an extra year.
No, he got extra games.
Yeah.
Or are you going to put an asterisk in the NFL, which now they're going to 17 games instead of 16, which is more than it used to be when it was 14 or even 12.
Right. I mean, what if Jonathan Taylor goes back crazy? Excuse me, and somehow gets past Eric Dickerson? Will we look at Eric Dickerson as the all-time single-season rushing king, or will we look at Jonathan Taylor? That's a good question. I mean, personally,
you can put him up there, but I think you got to put the information beside it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I
agree with you. You just got to put an asterisk and say, in a 17-game season. That's all.
Well, it's like. And his name, I brought his name up yesterday, Pete Maravich. It's still probably the greatest scorer in the history of college. I mean, I know that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but
3 seasons,
44 points a game, no three-point shot.
No threes.
Played just, that's mind-boggling to me. Just, it's never not been mind-boggling. And that will always, to me, that is the pinnacle right there. I don't care if someone came along today and averaged 50 points a game. I'm like, dude, that's not going to replace Pete Maravich. And I didn't even see him play.
No, it was Bozich. You're old enough to remember Maravich a little bit, right?
Yes, sir. I watched him on TV a little bit.
I did too. And God, the socks he wore and the style and the shaggy hair. He was just cool to watch.
Absolutely. And that was such a fun era of college basketball because he wasn't the only one that was putting up huge numbers back then. It was Bo Lamar and Johnny Newman and all these dudes who just like shot whenever they wanted to. Austin Carr up at Notre Dame, Rick Mount at Purdue. Jimmy Rail put up huge numbers at IU. It was just a different world back then.
Right. Can you imagine what kind of numbers Rick Mount would have had with the 3-point? Good heavens.
Now, and I always hear about Rick Mount and Jimmy Rail. When was Jimmy Rail in the 50s?
No, I think he was like late 50s, early 60s.
Because that's a name that comes up a lot when people talk about shooters. And I think especially younger people today, they don't understand how good basketball was years ago. In the 70s, 60s, and 70s, I think Indiana, the state of Indiana, may have, I don't want to say it was a pinnacle, but it might have been a pinnacle. If you go back and look at the players that came out of high school and played, your McGinnis's and the Downings and Mike Woodson's, and you can go down the line. I mean, I haven't even scratched the surface. I mean, even my high school, Floyd Central, went to the Final Four in 71. Well, they had 5 guys that played Division I basketball, and nobody knew any of them. But they got beat by East Chicago. Was it Roosevelt? Washington. That is considered possibly the greatest high school team in Indiana history, with Junior Bridgman, Pete Turgovich, Mel Stoddard, who pitched in Major League Baseball. Turgovich played for UCLA, of course. But yeah, and that was in the 70s, and it continued. And then you saw what the teams in the 70s, Louisville, Kentucky, Indiana, all great at college at that time. There was a period I remember, and I'd have to go back and look how many years, but it had to be a dozen or longer years where there was one team at least from either Kentucky or Kentucky or Indiana in the Final Four. That was like a dozen years that lasted.
Yeah, from 76 to 87, either Indiana with 3, Louisville with 2, Kentucky with 1, won 6 of the 12 NCAA titles.
I knew I could depend on Rick for clarity.
Bam, baby.
Bam.
You wanted it, you got it.
Louisville also
absolutely.
went. Louisville went in, like, in 82 also, and Kentucky went in 84, so that would have been 8 out of 12 years. One of the local teams here was in the Final Four. Been a while.
And that's just nuts. And we're talking just three teams, basically. Well, yeah, we are just talking 3 teams because Purdue never made it. And I'm sure Kentucky would like to forget about that 84 trip to Seattle. Was that against Georgetown?
3 for 33 in the second half, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what. I can't hardly remember anything in my life. I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. I remember that 3 for 33 in Seattle. Maybe I enjoyed it too much at the time. I don't know, but it's certainly stuck in my mind. I don't forget.
What year was that? Was that 89?
84.
84. Okay, I was thinking 89 with Rumio Robinson and Seton Hall and all those guys.
That was George. That was Patrick Ewing. They ended up beating Olajuwon in the championship. That was Houston went to the 3 straight Final Fours and lost in the championship game twice. 83 to obviously the big upset to NC State, and then 84 Georgetown got him.
Right. God, I miss the old days of the Big East, the old Big East.
Dude, that was
Big
so
Monday on the Big East. Yeah, that
Big Monday. It was. I mean, it was must-watch TV. It was appointment viewing. Even if you were living in the Midwest. I mean, I grew up in the East, but even if you're living in the Midwest, you had to watch.
It was a slugfest, fist fight all the time. I mean, that was like the game I saw last night, Tinley and Lawrence North. That's exactly that was a battle. But yeah, I remember sitting in, I think it's Cafe 301, Rick. It's on 3rd and Market Street in Louisville.
I know what you're talking about.
And it was the 6 overtime game in the Big East tournament.
I was at that game.
I watched that game. Holy moly. We're sitting there watching it because, it was getting close to closing time anyway. Well, they hit like the first overtime. We're like, all right, well, we're 6 overtimes deep, and there's just the 2 of us. They had to lock the doors, but we were not leaving. I mean, I think that thing went on until like 1 a.m.
Rick did not make deadline that night. I'm sorry.
Right?
Come again?
Boeheim and Calhoun, 2012 Big East semifinals.
Right. You make deadline that night?
I think Louisville played the early game.
Oh, okay. That's a good thing. People don't realize that writers, we love blowouts when we're on deadline. We love blowouts because that way we can start writing like middle of the third quarter or third, whatever, or early in the second half of a college game, and you're done by the end of the game.
Right. File the story early and put in there, please add final score.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. Done that a million times. That's why I'm still pissed off at Peyton for Tampa in 20 whatever year it was when they came back from 35 to 14 with 5 minutes left. Man, my column was done. I could taste that post-game beer, and then he brings them back, for crying out loud. Unbelievable.
Always happens. What's your plans for New Year's there, Bob? Any?
Absolutely none. I'm 61. We don't do. Hey, we're just happy if we can stay awake till midnight. It's gotten to that point in my sorry life.
Rick, how about yourself?
With COVID, I'm sure I'm staying in. And secondly, I think, isn't Friday the day of the Alabama, Cincinnati, Michigan, Alabama?
They always do that, and it's mind-boggling. This is a good year to do it. However, only this year because of COVID. But other than that, they've got to stop that. Stop putting games on New Year's Eve. I just think that it's early in the day is fine. Well,
that's what I'll be doing.
It's probably what I will end up doing as well. Very calm and just keep it calm and watching some football. Looking forward to it. Hoping those games. I'm in what are you predictions, man? What's Cincinnati going to do, Bob?
Get crushed.
I think so too.
I mean, all three of us were there in the press box that day where Indiana would have beaten Cincinnati if Micah McFadden hadn't got tossed out of the game. So I'm not a big believer in Cincinnati.
Nor am I. I mean, look, I'm rooting for that story. I think it would be fantastic. I would love to see a group of 5 team upend the whole apple cart. I think that would be awesome. But Alabama's Alabama, man. I mean, they're just better than everybody else.
Well, but they're beatable. At least we know that.
Yeah, at Kyle Field and one time. Yeah, and that probably was a good thing for them. So I think Alabama's going to win the whole damn thing again, and we're going to be writing the same column that we've written about 100 times.
When they put more points on Georgia in one quarter than most teams did the entire game, it was like, okay, we're back to where we were last year.
That's exactly right. I want Cincinnati. I think Luke Fickell is the real deal, and I love their quarterback Ritter, but I just don't see it. I mean, of course, Boise State beat Oklahoma or somebody many years ago. I
remember that.
Yeah, and then the kid proposed to his girlfriend right after he scored the game-winning touchdown. That was a good moment.
The Statue of Liberty to score the touchdown, and then they did something else to score the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, I think it was a Philly special, maybe, but it was great. But I just don't see that happening this time. I wish I could come up with a scenario where that's realistic, but I don't think that it is. But I'll probably be wrong.
It's a good story for us because the Cincinnati quarterback is from St. Xavier High School in Louisville, and neither Louisville nor Kentucky offered him a scholarship. It came down to Purdue and Cincinnati, the coach actually who recruited him was Tommy Tuberville. They pushed a little bit harder, and now this guy's trying to knock down Alabama. So if he does that, it's a heck of a story.
Yeah.
Was Brom at Purdue yet?
Yeah. Brian, I heard from the coach at St.
He went with Tuberville over Brom. I cannot believe that.
Well, Brian,
he's from St. X.
Right.
That's why.
The Browns are Trinity. He's St. X. But Brian Brom really wanted him. Jeff wasn't quite as sold on him. And Tuberville and his staff were full speed ahead, and that's why he committed early. But Louisville and Kentucky both looked at him and said, nah, not good enough.
I bet you Brian just gave Jeff the look on that one.
I'm sure he did.
Because that's a situation that they could definitely have done very, very well. Can you imagine had Purdue had him these last couple of years? David Bell, who am I missing? That's in the NFL.
Rondale Moore.
Rondale Moore.
Milton Wright.
And now how amazing would that be, Rick? Because Rondale Moore is actually from New Albany, which is 25 minutes from where the quarterback is from.
Purdue has Milton Wright too, who's from Louisville Christian.
Yep,
Christian Academy.
That's a small school. That's just amazing. But yeah, and we talked earlier about Louisville. Why didn't Brom go to Louisville the last time? They wanted him so badly. Did he not want to follow Patino again?
No, I think he'd only been
Petrino, rather,
for 2 years, and he felt like he was walking out on his commitment to the people there and what is, the players that he recruited, and that was the overriding issue where he felt like he'd be walking away from something before he'd done the job.
I honestly thought that he had his sights, and not because he had told me, but I just had always had it in the back of my mind. He had his sights on Notre Dame, being a Catholic kid from Louisville, Trinity. Louisville's got this symbiotic thing with Notre Dame.
Except neither here is. Both Brian and Jeff were recruited by Notre Dame, and neither one of them went there. They went to Louisville. So I'm not sure if the Notre Dame pull is really that strong.
And without question, I think that his next stop is probably going to be Louisville. I mean, he's the hometown guy. Is that something that he wants?
Yeah, I could see him wanting to do it at some point. Yeah, and I think it'll definitely be a story to follow next year, because Satterfield officially moved onto next year's hot seat by losing yesterday to Air Force, a team that can't pass through for 2 passing touchdowns against Louisville, and Louisville fans lost their mind on Twitter. Go back and look through the Twitter timelines yesterday, and they finished 6-7. So unless Louisville has an 8-win or more season next year, I could see something happening here, and I think Brom is definitely going to be the first choice.
Like we talked earlier, the Big Ten changed their COVID policy. How are we going to be able to get through the basketball season unless they change protocols? We've seen all these bowl games get canceled, but mainly because of the protocols. It's not, and the CDC has come out and reduced that. We talked about that a little bit ago, but I think that they've got to even look at doing that, because it seems like a lot of games are being unnecessarily canceled.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough call. I'm, in my role as resident epidemiologist, boy, I'm, look, the CDC comes out with these protocols. I'm willing to let the experts make these sorts of calls. But the way this thing is blowing up, man, I don't know. Even if you limit the time from, say, 10 days to 5 days, you're still going to have a hard time. And like I say, it's just blowing up. My poor wife is like the only person in her office who doesn't have it. I mean, it's just everywhere. So, I don't know. I mean, it's getting weird now. The NFL and the NBA are requiring proof of boosters for reporters. I mean, reporters. In fact, I got to leave here in about 2 minutes because I got to go get tested today. I got to get tested by 11 o'clock down at the Colts facility. We get tested every single week. We're socially distanced. We're doing all virtual now. We were doing regular press conferences before, but they've changed those protocols. But I'll tell you what, if you want to be safe, hang around a reporter.
Yeah. I felt awful braggy about it so far, but I think I'm going to shut my mouth now because
not starting
getting close.
Yeah.
Rick, how's your weekend looking? I know you're just going to sit around and watch some football. You got walk the dog a little bit maybe on Saturday.
Today we got Louisville plays Wake Forest here, 8 o'clock, and Kentucky's at home.
They actually have a game.
Yeah. Kentucky's at home with their SEC opener against Missouri, which just lost to Illinois by 25, so it shouldn't be much of a game. And then when does Indiana play Penn State? Saturday or Sunday?
No,
it's the second. I think it's the second, right?
That's Sunday.
So that would be Sunday.
That's at Penn State, and they come home next week to play Ohio State and Minnesota, right?
Yeah, that'll be the Ohio State game will be a hell of a game.
Yeah.
We'll find out what Indiana's made of once we start getting to those games.
Yep. Rick or Bob, how's the rest of your day looking?
I got to get tested for COVID. Yeah, I'm just going to work on this Larry Bird piece, I think, for the most part, and just earn my keep.
Well, tell the folks out of Fritz Lick we said hello.
All right, sounds good, man. Love to go down and play golf down there when golf season starts again.
Cannot wait. As soon as it is spring, we are heading there, man. I am ready. I am
Sounds
so
good.
ready. Bob or Rick, do you play golf?
No, sir.
That's why he's happy.
No.
You are not lying. Well, thanks so much, Bob. I appreciate
All right,
you
man.
from The Athletic. Make sure you go out and check out his work at The Athletic. Be a subscriber, I am. And Rick Bozich, of course, from WDRB.com, where you can get all kinds of sports knowledge from there. With all kinds
Happy New Year.
You guys
everybody.
have a great weekend.
Yeah. Have a happy New Year, boys.
And,
Stay safe.
friends, and
Wash your hands.
same with everybody else. Exactly. There you go. And I hope everybody else has a great day for you. And unfortunately, no game tonight, so I have to watch somebody else's play. But for Bob, Rick, John, the producer, I'm Jim Coyle. Until tomorrow, I will see you on the radio.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.